I haven't like I kind of miss that doing like baking textures, rendering things, just like waiting for the computer to do something. I haven't done anything like that where there's a ton of waiting involved. I guess like running builds and things, can take a bit, but not nearly as long as like a render could take. 10 minutes? That's not too bad. Okay. It was always funny, so back when I was at Pixar, the average render for, like the average frame of the movie would always take like 6 hours for I think 6 hours was basically the average. So it was always something where like you had to work all day and try to get the thing looking good, and then like you set the render farm to like render out you know the whole sequence, like all the frames of the animation, and then you go home and you come and check it in the morning. So it was always this. There was something fun about that, just like showing up and seeing what your work looked like. Like, how is this looking? Is this? Sometimes it was like a pleasant surprise, and sometimes it was just like, oh my gosh, what have I done? Cool. You have to show us the character when you're done, of course. I mean, you don't have to, but it'd be cool to see it. So yeah, let's see. Updates on my end, real quick. It's been another, I don't want to say boring week, but a lot of Android bug fixing, basically, is what I've been up to. So um, yeah, so I think as of last week, like the 1730 update for Bomb Squad is officially out on like Google Play Store. You can get test builds of it here too. So everything's updated to 1730, which is it's kind of a big update technically. So lots of cleaning things up, and on Android there's a bunch of big things like the game now requires like OpenG ES3, which is a little bit newer than it used to work on anything using like ES2 or newer, but this means like it's the code base is like way cleaned up, but unfortunately it means like some real old devices don't work anymore. So I've just been spending the last week or two kind of dealing with little bugs and bits of fallout from all that. So it's yeah, not the most fun stuff, but it's part of the part of the deal. Oh, what kind of game machine? Oh, this comes up a lot. The that whoops, wrong direction. It's just a. It was called II Arcade. It was a cool little startup doing basically arcade stand-ups, and then you could install. They had kind of like an app store model where they had a bunch of like random arcade games and things like that. But unfortunately, they didn't make it. So they're not around as of a few months ago. It was a really cool company. It has really good like hardware and all that. And they installed. They reached out to me because they installed Bomb Squad as one of the like 10 pre-installed games on there. So that was kind of cool. Um, there it seems like there's still a little like maker community around him, like all the people who have those that hardware. There's a bunch of people making like custom circuit boards so you can install a Raspberry Pi and you know make your own little arcade setup with it, which I should totally look into because it's neat, like the handful of games on there that came with it, or I downloaded a few from the store and whatnot. But it's like it'd be cool to play some of the other classics that aren't on there, like Pac-Man, stuff like that. Oh, thank you. Tryhards. What is? I should know. What is a tryhard? Can you, if it's not too hard, could you elaborate on that a bit? But yeah, the going back to this for a second, the one downside is they put Bomb Squad on it, which was super cool. But I feel like I should have like they set up the default button configuration, which like I couldn't get used to it, so I feel like I can't actually play it on there because like the buttons feel significantly different from playing with a game controller or a gamepad or whatever. Just like the positions of them. I don't remember exactly how they had it set, but it felt a little like strange. So I should have made it customizable. Oh, their life is split. Oh, okay. Um, that's cool. I don't know. I feel like there's that with everything. It's like some people just really get into a hobby, or I mean, honestly, I feel a little bit like a tryhard with indie game development. Like I this comes up with my lady and I sometimes in terms of just like sometimes all I want to do is code and tinker on the game and whatever. It's just like fun for me. Um, but it's like I should, go outside and hang out with people sometimes or whatever. Um, so I don't know. I don't want to judge people too much that like I mean, and part of me is just like how are you so into the game? Like it hasn't changed a ton, visually and whatever in a while, but it's also super awesome and it's like inspiring to me to try to like make the game better for people that are super into it, just to give them more stuff to play with. So I don't know. That's a very non-committal answer. I'm not going to be like, hey, go outside and find a hobby, because it's like, it's cool. You like my game. Um, yeah. So, but I don't know. I think it's neat when you see, in a way, like when people are super into a hobby or something like that, like model trains. I used to love model trains, like when I mean, I still kind of do. I don't really like have any, but it'd be cool to like make a model train layout again. But it's like you see some people that are just like super into that stuff. Or some like older guys that are like 60 or like they're retired and they have like their entire garage is full of like an awesome model train layout and they probably spend like all of their free time like working on it or something. So I don't know. I'm very like not judgy of people that have like that are just super into one thing and throw all their time at it. I guess it brings up different questions though, like in Bomb Squad, if people, if that's causing problems for other players, if there's like caustic or toxic personalities or something that, like I hear that about other games like Counter Strike. Um, I liked playing Counter Strike a few times, like casually with friends. I was terrible at it, but I always heard, like if you try to play online or with there's the community is so into it and so good and so judgmental or something, or maybe I heard that with like League of Legends. I haven't another game that I haven't played too much, but I heard it has a very like can have an intense community. So if there's stuff like that in Bomb Squad, if people are like judgy or making it hard for new people to like join the community, I feel like then that's maybe a problem, or it'd be good to improve that situation. I just don't want to judge like people too much for being super into you know game of their choice. Uh, yeah, I am familiar with these terms, and it's still like I don't know them all that well. Like, well, bomb jump, what? Uh, but yeah, I know people have these strategies and advanced techniques and things like that. I do kind of think that my if you've been hanging around here listening to me ramble, like one of my big goals overall is like squads mode, which is essentially kind of become like what 2.0 is about, like Bomb Squad 2.0, like the whole plans for the future is kind of rejiggering the game to be more about squads mode. And I think I kind of feel like there will be some social effects there in terms of like if you're just jumping online. My hope is that people's average way to play the game will be just jump online, invite a friend or two, and then just play random matches, in various leagues or whatever. Just kind of like your human interactions will be mostly with your friends, aside from actually play interactions with other people. Hopefully, like at your skill level, but there'll be less like open servers with everyone chatting and kick voting and things like that. So it'll be more like just playing with your friends. I feel like that might kind of change the social dynamic and theoretically maybe get rid of some of the toxic aspects if people are running into that. Oh. Sorry, I feel like I have a bit of a like train of thought, like rambling way of talking sometimes. So apologies if you didn't understand everything. Oh well, I mean, I want the game to be fun for a single player too. I mean, that's my hope is that, which is probably most players. It's like most people playing a phone game are probably doing so like while they're chilling at home or something. So I don't want it to I don't want it to feel like, oh, you have to have friends and you have to invite friends to play this game. So for squads mode, there should be like free for all squads mode play, or just like random 2v2s or something. Do you guys, if you play other games like as a single player, do you enjoy where it like randomly gives you a teammate, or would you rather be playing just totally free for all in cases like that? I'm not going to judge people if you don't have friends to play with online. I kind of don't too much right now. Like I have had groups where I've played games with in the past, but like I don't have like an active group right now where we're playing any games. Friend, what? What is this free end? What? And yeah, it's interesting for me because like if I look at the stats, there probably are most players are probably still playing single player anyway. So I need to like not forget that. Um, oh, wiki out, make friends. Oh, and it's got a poo. Why is there a poo? Hmm. But yeah, I do need to like not lose sight of the fact that the game should be fun for non groups, or single players, or whatever. But I would still like that to be, I'm hoping regardless to have all of that be wrapped into leagues and squads and like the more online centric play. Um, I'm hoping some of this is a technical challenge, but I'm hoping that for tournaments, that even like single player tournaments, kind of like there are now, like score based ones, that it could, all that gameplay will happen on servers or online, as long as it's possible to kind of get rid of the lag, which should be technically possible, especially for single player, because with single player, there's not like another person on the other end. It's basically you talking to a server. So it's kind of easier to get rid of lag that way. It's basically like the server is like running the same game you are, but it's running it a little bit behind. It's more so just to like make sure that you're not cheating. So like if the server comes up with a different result than you do, it'll like send you a reset. And so, then if you hacked your local game to like reduce gravity or something, then if like occasionally it would like snap your game back into what the server is seeing. So the server in that case is kind of like a referee, but it can kind of be delayed a little bit. So anyway, technical rambling, but long story short is that hopefully that would be basically a way to get rid of cheaters and hackers and things like that in tournaments, but not add a bunch of lag to the game for like single player stuff. Um, so yeah, which would mean like I really would like to get that in place, because that means I can turn off a bunch of stuff like the rootkit detection, things like that, which is just annoying. I hate when I get reports from people about rootkit, like the rootkit detection giving a false positive for their device, or people that did like want to just tinker with their device and so they rooted it. It's like, who cares? You should be able to do that. I feel bad like using it as a reason to disqualify people from tournaments, but yeah, it is what it is for now. Already said it. Progress of BS. So yeah, right now, I mean I did kind of already mention it, but basically I'm just coming off of the 1.730 update, which was, it turned out to be a pretty big technical update. Like if you take a look through the GitHub source code, there's like a lot that's changed. A lot of the just like rendering code and the rendering engine and just overall game stuff. It's like cleaned up a lot now. So which made a big difference, especially on Android. Hopefully in a good way. I know I'm still dealing with some crashes people are running into, but the end result should be better, and the source code is certainly cleaner. I feel like I spend about half of my time just like trying to deal with like cleaning up source code and all that, which is it seems odd, but it's important too. I feel like for a long project is to like try to get it to a place where it's maintainable and you can like add to it gracefully instead of, it's like when you have a closet where you've just like thrown all your stuff in the closet and it's a big pile of stuff. Like at some point, that's not maintainable. At some point you gotta like take everything out of the closet, put it in boxes, and then put it back nicely so that you can kind of, it's like that's how code feels to me. It's like sometimes you just gotta like clean up bits so that you can add more to it later. Otherwise you're just like trying to stuff more things into a pile that's not going to work. Well, sorry, sorry you don't understand too much. The YouTube video will be out tomorrow. I guess hopefully there's subtitles on that. I don't know if they do like translated subtitles. Squad Bomb. I should rename the sequel just Squad Bomb. Squam Bot. Yeah, Squad. Something like that. Every time these pictures of me, I'm just like, when did I make that face? What the heck? I thought I'd change it up with my shirt. I always wear like the exact same 3 shirts, like my blue one, my gray one, or my red one. So I thought I'd go with green this time, get a little like Christmas spirit, sort of. Though technically this is part of my Halloween costume, so I was I got a picture here. My lady and I were Mario and Luigi for Halloween, so that was very exciting. So I'm reusing my green shirt whenever possible because it's awesome. But yeah, so in game progress updates, it's basically coming out of this big, just very technical one. So now it's kind of like, I mean, I'm still dealing with some bugs, and I need to finally finish pulling in PRs that I promised people. So that'll be 1731 will be just kind of a cleanup, pulling in PR update sort of thing. But then it's on to the next kind of big thing, which I'm trying to decide what that'll be. Actually, there's a lot of options. I shouldn't say big thing, but like substantial thing. Like one thing I was thinking is finally getting ASTC textures in there, because that's on the like to-do list. So right now on Android, like as background on that, there's like texture compression that works with GPUs. So all games use like compressed textures that your GPU can like basically store the texture in compressed form in its memory, so it can like use it while it's compressed, which like saves a lot of space. And so on Android, the compression we've been using is ETC or ETC2, which it works, but I don't really like it, and it's not the best. I feel like if you look at a lot of the textures on Android, they don't look as good as like the PC or the desktop versions of the game, which are like DXT5, or I forgot the exact term, but it's more like standard desktop compression that is used by most PCs, Windows, Mac, all that stuff. So anyway, ASTC is a much nicer compression format that has like a lot of like the thing I like about it is you can kind of adjust the quality. So you can do like a trade-off between like how good the texture looks and how small it is, which is great because like ETC, like the existing stuff, doesn't have that. So some of the textures just look kind of crappy. So that's on my to-do list, is to get everything converted to ASTC on Android. So maybe I'll do that like this week. That could be fun. Or there's other things that people have been talking about, or I've been talking about, like Linux builds. I think Michelle would have a heart attack. Oh, I know. I definitely. I need to make that one change so then I can merge that PR. I promised him I'd add a function for checking the IP address of the current running game, I think. So yeah. General shout out to anyone making PRs is that I apologize, I'm slow getting them pulled in sometimes. If you don't know what a PR is a pull request. It's a thing on GitHub where you write some code or you change something in the engine and then you submit what's called a pull request, which is basically saying like, hey, pull this code in. And yeah, I've been keeping a few of them waiting for a while, which is, I apologize, but it's, as I mentioned, is like I kind of had to just set that stuff to the side and focus on bug fixes, because there were a lot of bugs in the Android update. It's slowly getting under control here. You can see there's still a lot. I'll show you my little Crashlytics console here. If we come in here, let's filter by crashes. So here you can see in the last 30 days. If you go to last 90 days, you can see like this is the average number of crashes coming in. Um, there's a lot of them, but there's a lot of games out there, so it's not actually that many per person. But it's like 99.89% crash free, which was great. Um, but yeah, as of recently, like these last few weeks, that number is kind of taken a nosedive. It's still 99.75, which is still good, but it's just like, ew. You can see this like nice little hump of crashes here, which is the 1730 stuff. I'm starting to deal with it. So you can see it's coming down again. But for a while there, yeah, it was just like, oh no, everything's crashing. By everything, I mean like less than 1% of stuff, but still, it's like it's not good. Um, so yeah, still kind of dealing with Fallout there. The one good thing is the other thing that this thing tracks is app not responding issues, which is ANRs as they're called, and this is basically when like your phone is just like sitting there for 5 seconds and not responding, and these I've actually cleaned up a lot. So woohoo, check that out. So there was a few weeks ago there were 1,000 ANRs per day, and now they are steadily dropping. It's down to 385 as of I guess today. So I don't know, hopefully that makes up for the slightly higher crash rate right now, but hopefully I'll get the crash rate back down. Yeah, a lot of right now there's actually some crashes that are related to the audio stuff. So if any of you are like running 1730 and you're hearing weird audio issues or things like that, like please let me know, or if you're not hearing audio. So I switched the back end, the audio back end, more nerdy technical details here, but I'm using something called OpenAL Soft, actually, which is a library that handles audio. And it uses some libraries on the back end, which it was using one called OpenSL, but I switched to another one called Oboe, which is recommended by the Android people. That's like their newer one that supports, newer devices in a better way. Like there's apparently less latency on audio, things like that. So, if you do something in the game, you hear it quicker. So I switched over to use that newer one, but that triggered a bunch of random crashes and things. So I'm slowly talking to the proper parties and getting those crashes worked out. But that's been kind of a big chunk of the Android crashes. Bomb jump there. Please never fix it for the Tryhard community. I think at this point, classic gameplay. If I've been talking about stuff like squads mode and scene versions, if you've been hearing me ramble about that, the idea behind scene versions is we'll be able to basically like code up a whole new. I shouldn't say a new style, but almost like a new set of physics or a new behavior of characters or a new style of character even, with like totally different physics. But that will be able to exist without touching any of the old physics. So like all the existing player controls and bomb jumps and all that stuff, like I don't think that will be changing at all. I don't expect it. It might be something where like if you're playing a squads mode game or something, or certain type games in the future might have a little bit different physics or significantly different. We'll see. But like if you're running an existing server, like bomb jump won't be going away. The classic play mode, I don't plan to. My overall strategy with like classic play is like just keep it working. I don't plan to change anything there if I can help it. So yeah, if you're running a server and you're worried about losing your bomb jump, like I wouldn't be worried. There's a good quote: "Tryhards don't suck. Toxic tryhards suck." Okay, I like that. I like whenever I see videos of someone like people doing amazing, crazy bomb jumpy, weird stunt type stuff. Like I don't know, it's super impressive to me. Like that people are that good or find these like little subtle strategies that work well. In-game plugin installer. This is like that's an interesting idea. Some of that is there's like one reason I hadn't done that is because there were a few people maintaining, like plugin managers. Are those still out there? Are there still like actively updated plugin managers? I feel like I haven't checked in on that scene recently. Okay. Because one thought is like maybe we could make it easier to install a plugin manager. Maybe like in the plugin section there could be I don't know, just like a drop down of like, hey, these are common plugin managers. Do you want to install one of these? And then that would get you going on getting more plugins or something. Um, I feel like that whole arena, it kind of seems like, to me anyway, it seems like the one big challenge is trying to filter good plugins from bad, or like mark when plugins stop working or which ones are abandoned or things like that. And so that's kind of why I feel like if plugin managers are good at that, if I can just steer people towards that, let people kind of own that arena. It is. I mean, it's kind of a. I shouldn't say a dangerous thing too, but it's something that shouldn't be taken lightly because if you're installing, especially on like PC versions or versions where the game runs and it's like not sandboxed, if someone runs a plugin, that plugin can technically do a lot of stuff. Like so, it's like we need some sort of vetting or some sort of people watching out to make sure that there aren't shiesty plugins out there. In other cases, like if you're running the game on Android, plugins should be safer because I mean, even if you have like a malicious plugin that you installed that does nasty stuff, it probably can't do too much damage aside from like messing up your game install. Um, Even then, it can't. I mean, it can probably mess it up pretty bad in terms of just like making your game not work, but it shouldn't be able to like hack your phone or anything. Usually, I mean, unless there's some like unpatched exploit that it is using, but hopefully the top of the line hacker community isn't investing time in Bomb Squad plugins. Is he referring to me? Or does he have another friend, Eric? Everyone should have a friend, Eric. It's good to have a friend, Eric. Admittedly, I am bad about that. Like when I get emails from people asking about like, can you help me set up a server or can you help me, with port forwarding? Yeah, I usually don't respond to those, unfortunately, just because it's like I think there's info out there to help with that sort of thing. And not that I'm trying to be a jerk. It's just like, I need to carve out a chunk of my day to keep working on the game and, not have any outside distractions. So it's, yeah, I try to answer emails when I can, especially like when the game's broken or there's bugs or whatever. But I'm not always the best at, when it was someone asking for help, like setting up a server, because it's like there's online resources for that. Long-term goals for the game. Yeah, totally. I basically, I mean, I want to evolve the game forward into just like anytime I get a cool idea for like a little fun game that would be fun to play, I always think of it in terms of like, how can I make Bomb Squad do this? Or how can I make the Ballistica engine be able to do this? So my overall goals are just kind of keep evolving it forward, making it easier to mod, making it so I can like add some, experiment with some gameplay and, or make like variations on the game. This has come up before. Like what if there was like an augmented reality version of Bomb Squad? Using like the same characters and the same physics, but like let's say you're using goggles and you're playing it on like a tabletop or something like in front of you, and I don't know, like different ideas there to where like it could go in different directions, like different game styles or whatever, but kind of like reusing the same infrastructure and the same pieces, just putting them together in different ways. So that's my long-term goal is just to see where that can go, just kind of keep working on the same thing and kind of making it better and cleaner and faster and, yeah, I'm super excited for that, like Bomb Squad Tabletop Edition, like something like that. We'll see like when a good time for that would be. It's like Apple is coming out with their crazy expensive AR headset beginning of next year. The Quest headsets are pretty good if anyone's played with those. Like they're starting to get into more like AR type stuff. More like games that you just play like on top of the real world, which I'm starting to get more and more excited about that, like seeing how that works. I thought like to me VR is cool. It's neat. Like I always love when people see VR for the first time because it's like, whoa, it's one of those neat like, wow, this is amazing kind of moments. but it also feels like it hasn't taken off super fast. You know, because for one thing, it feels like it's so hard to make a good like VR experience. Like you have to make the entire world, you know, and also it can be isolating. You know, it's like if you're trying to play a VR game and not run into walls and not feel like you're ignoring the people around you. But like the AR stuff, where it's more like you put on some goggles or glasses and like you're still seeing the world around you and you can still interact with other people, but then like you also have this cool tabletop in front of you where there's like this cool game going on. Like to me, that stuff seems, I feel like it gets rid of like the friction somewhat, like that aspect in VR where it feels like you're shutting everything out and you're going into this little scary alone place. Like AR doesn't have that feeling as much. So I don't know. I'm getting more excited about like what that can lead to, and it is super cool. Like the VR version of Bomb Squad. I fired it up, this last week just to see how broken it is. Like the one that's on the Oculus Rift store, which is still like working. I still need to update it. It's on 1.4 point something still. But it is super cool, just like seeing the game in 3D, like seeing the little characters running around. Like it just feels like action figures on your table or something. So there's something just neat about playing that way. So and an upside of doing like the AR thing, where it's like you're not actually having to create the entire world. You're just like maybe making like a table, is like for me as an indie gamer, or indie developer, it's like I don't want to make the whole world. I don't want to worry about like what's behind you. I just want to like make a little table in front of you with a game on it. And so that means like for AR stuff, that makes that more possible, Oh, Mac App Store update. Yeah, it went well. It's kind of like not noteworthy too much. It hasn't actually like changed the game too much in terms of getting a few more reviews here. But it hasn't gotten featured or anything like that. It's number 63 in the action charts. Cool, it's good, not amazing. I'm definitely happy that I updated it just because it's updated now. And I was getting periodic emails from like Mac users before just saying like, hey, I love your game, but like, why is it so old and broken? And so I'm happy it's in a better place. There's definitely like barely any Mac users compared to Android people. So it's one of those things where it's like, I can't, pay too much attention to it, or like, I still need to focus on the larger user base just in terms of making money from the game and, the whole like, it's a job sort of thing, paying rent and stuff. But it is like, I am super happy to have like the cleaned up Mac version out there, because I'm pretty proud of how like polished it is for the most part. And yeah, another thing then too is like, I think I mentioned before, is like a lot of the code, like this Game Center stuff. You can see like on Android you have Google Play Game Services. On Apple stuff there's Game Center. So basically similar sort of things. But a lot of like this integration that I had to spend a decent amount of time doing, like that will apply to like the iPhone and the iPad and the other Apple platforms, Apple TV. So I'm very happy to have like that stuff cleaned up and modernized and ready to go. So then when 2.0 rolls around and we launch on iPhone and stuff, that stuff is ready. So yay. So I'm sort of considering in a way the Mac App Store version is a little bit of like a soft launch for like Apple tech. Can't get Bomb Squad to work on my... Wait, what is... Where did that go? I'm so bad. Like, I just lose messages here sometimes. Oh, toaster. Oh. I thought this was a legit message. I was looking around for like, I can't get it to work on my blah, blah, blah phone. I have, on that note, going back to Android for a minute, I did update the min SDK, or min SDK value, which is minimum software developer kit. It's the first time I updated that in a while, which basically means that the game will no longer run on Android 5. You need Android 6 or newer to run the game. And I felt kind of bad doing that because there wasn't like a technical reason necessarily. It's more just like pushing things forward slowly. Because the game supports Android 6 through 14, so that's a lot of Android versions. But I do feel bad like cutting off the people that have like those very not yeah, I guess they're kind of old at this point devices running Android 5. It turns out there's a decent number of like Android TVs that are running Android 5. So I've been hearing from some people that like they're like I can't find Bomb Squad on the store anymore, and I'm like that's because it's not there for you. Sorry, it's but I try to point them at like the old APK and help people like install stuff manually if possible. Has anyone like are any of you out there or anyone you know still running like Android 5? Has that been a problem for anyone? Mia? Burp. Oh yeah, oh well sorry to hear that. Uh yeah, it's tricky. Like I said, there wasn't like a technical requirement for me to update to 6. There's a few like benefits where like if you're targeting Android 5 as like a minimum version, then like it has to do things certain ways like everywhere, even if you're running Android 14, like it can't use some newer technology. So there is like a benefit to like updating the minimum version because then you start to like get some more like improvements that Google has made. So it's like this weird balance. Like I don't want to abandon people running old devices, but at the same time it's like yeah, I'd like to use like the newer, nicer stuff. Um, And some there is like a strategy that some apps and games can do where you can release like two versions of the game. Like one is targeting, Android 5 through 10, and the other one is targeting like 11 plus. Um, but to me that seems like extra work. I'd rather just like stick to one, have one build that is like the official build. But yeah, you can Google and Amazon you can do that where they're not even APKs you provide anymore. They're app bundles, so AABs they're called. And then Google itself like splits those out into APKs for you. But you can provide like multiple AABs. But like I said, my thought is like maybe I'll just try to support the last 9 years worth of Android and leave it at that. I kind of feel bad because like half my test devices are running like Android 5. Like a lot of the other ones were running Android 4, so I lost those already when I updated to like 5 like a year or two ago. Um, yeah, new Android package format. It was a bit annoying to update to that, but I'm glad I did. One nice thing is it splits out APKs for you, so it'll give you an APK that only has the architecture that your phone is running, which for most people is like a 64-bit ARM processor, but there's still like some 32-bit processors out there, and there's some like x86 Intel stuff that runs Android. So the upside of this is like if there were to be like one APK that contains all four architectures, like that's way bigger than like an APK that contains just one. So it's nice that you send Google like an AAB, like this bundle that has everything, and then Google like splits that out into APKs, and then it sends each device like only what they need. So that part's good. Um, why are phones so complicated? This is a good question. But yeah, I mean, I haven't like. It'll be interesting when the game is out on like iPhone and all that stuff. I'm guessing that will be a lot simpler, just because like Apple's ecosystem is pretty. It's just Apple stuff, which they don't have that much of a variety of things. But on Android, it's like there's so many devices and so much variety, and like so many of them are running like 8-year-old versions of Android and stuff. So it's like there's definitely a lot more to account for. It's kind of a fun challenge, but it definitely, yeah, it's a lot. Android 2. It is, like I said, the 1730 update, like I should have made like a side-by-side just to show you all the code that I got to rip out. It was so nice, like all the OpenGL 2 code. Yeah, there was all this like ugly OpenGL is like the graphics API, so it's what the game is using to like draw polygons on the screen basically. And there was all this like old tangled code like if they're running OpenGL 2, but they have this certain extension, then we can like use this certain function. Otherwise, let's use this function. You know, so it's just like this big nested spaghetti mess. But now it's usually like OpenGL ES3 it requires that, and that does basically everything the game needs to do. So it's a lot simpler, where it's just like, okay, we have OpenGL ES3, so let's like just do everything the ES3 way. So it is, yeah, much cleaner and more maintainable. But like I said, it does mean having to like cut off support for some older devices. Vulcan time. That is a good question. I don't know. I've been thinking about that, and I have, like, if you look at the game, the game is abstracted, or the engine, it is abstracted to where like there's back ends for the renderer. So there's like an OpenGL backend, which is currently the only backend. And so the question is, like, when would it make sense to make like a Vulcan backend or a Metal backend for Apple stuff, or a DirectX backend for Windows stuff? And I don't really have an answer for that, like when that would make sense to do. Probably when it starts becoming like a problem, because I know like desktop PCs, some of them don't have very good support for OpenGL. OpenGL is more used for, you know, like Blender, you know, like apps, like 3D apps and things, like professional stuff. Traditionally has used OpenGL. It's probably migrating to Vulcan a little bit more, but games have usually used like DirectX or Direct3D or whatever it's called. And so, like, yeah, there's probably a lot of like lower end PCs or laptops or, you know, Chromebooks or whatever. Maybe not Chromebooks, but there's a lot of probably like Windows stuff that doesn't support OpenGL well. So at some point, it might make sense to give them an alternate option, like the Vulcan renderer or DirectX renderer or something. The downside is, like, I just want to make sure I'm not like duplicating code or making it harder for me to, you know, improve things or fix things. Because like once you have multiple, like the upside with OpenGL, or just having one OpenGL backend, is like I can kind of change how the renderer works, and I only have to change it in one place. Once there's like three backends, it's very much like set in stone. You know, I mean, not very much, but it would be a lot harder to change things. So there is that downside of like making different backends. There's also interesting tech too. Just to get off on more fun technical tangents, is Angle project. There's this thing, or there's several things like this, where this is done by Google, but it's basically providing like OpenGL using all these other things. So technically, you know, I could write the game targeting OpenGL ES3, which is already targeting, and then Angle could make it work using Vulcan or make it work using Metal. It's just like a translation layer sort of thing, where it basically gives you OpenGL but using a different API. So there's that as an option too. Like if that wouldn't be hard to do, like that could provide like a very consistent, you know, possibly better performing backend, even if the game is still using OpenGL. Oh. How to get the game nodes and all their attributes. This is something where the upcoming Steam versions, I want to make it easier, because it's super annoying right now. Probably the easiest version right now is if you just look through the source code. So if you go to Ballistica, grab that from GitHub, come into like source, Ballistica, scene v1, this is where all the gameplay stuff lives right now, node, and then here's all the source code for all the nodes. So if you want to see like what's available on like the globals node, just come in, should be here somewhere. Somewhere for all these nodes, there is, well, if we go to the C++ file, there's the header file and the C++ file. Okay, here we go. So each of these nodes defines you'll see this like node type class. This defines kind of like the node and what attributes are available on it. So you can look through, like that's the whole attribute list right there. So real-time, time, step, debris friction, floor friction, blah, 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 blah. So it's a bit of a roundabout, janky way to do it, but this will show you every attribute that's available in the engine for every node. Or spaz node. Spaz node is like the biggest, ugliest source file ever. Let's see how big this thing is. Spaznode.cc. Lots of stuff. Maybe, where's the type? The thing I just showed you is like the type. There should be, unless I split it out. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, here's all the attributes available on spaz nodes. That lovely little list there. But yeah, this source code, the CC file, is 6,895 lines, which is way too long for a source code file. I feel the game used to have a ton of long files, like all the Python files used to be this long and stuff. But it's just, I feel like in general, it's possible when it's possible to make source files shorter than 7,000 lines of code. I feel like that's a good idea. So for like scene version 2 or something, spaz will probably be split into more pieces somehow, or hopefully cleaned up. Oh, is the audio bad? Oh no. I mean, well, I'm adjusting my audio. That wouldn't be. I don't know if there's like microphone audio. Well, I won't touch it for now. Hopefully it's okay. If I can play with audio a little bit next time if need be. Show you something? Sure, go ahead and show stuff. I don't have any super exciting stuff to show, so if anyone else wants to show stuff. To do. Like to-do list to do, or is that just like what he says? Ooh, radical questions. Fire away. Let's hear it. Let's see, have I missed anything? I do. I definitely do want to improve the graphics. Like there's so much I would love to do with graphics in terms of better shadows, better explosions, better everything. It's just like it's a priority thing. Like I really just want to get squads mode and 2.0 out the door. So I feel like I can't prioritize graphics too much until that time. But I would absolutely love to spend like 3 months just doing graphics improvements. Clean every to-do. There's no such thing as cleaning to-dos. To-dos only get bigger. They never get smaller. I think I've given up on having like one official to-do list because, like I said, it never goes away. I tackle some stuff on it, but then at some point other things become outdated or obsolete, or I just forget about them, or other things are more important, and then it gets like too big and demoralizing. So then I'll start a new list, and then the same thing happens. So I feel like I don't have like an official single list for that reason. Add lore to Bomb Squad. I would. This has come up a lot, like lore. I think that would be kind of fun, maybe. But I also think like in a way that's not going to like break the game for people, or like I kind of want. What I've mentioned before is what I've heard from Nintendo, or I read this about Nintendo, is that they treat their characters like Mario and Luigi and Princess and everyone as like actors, like those are characters you recognize, but they're just like, they show up in different games and they have kind of different roles. They don't necessarily, have like a single story. Like sometimes Bowser is trying to kidnap like Peach, and sometimes they're playing tennis, so it's kind of like there's not a singular story for them. So I kind of like that, just coming up with some like characters that are like maybe well known, maybe updating them and modernizing them or whatever, but or at least well known in the Bomb Squad community, but not necessarily having like a single storyline or a single backstory for it. That being said, it'd be super cool to. I do want to promote the idea of having stories, like having a league or something, like a squads mode league or a version 2 league, like something where it's like just a storyline or an RPG or something almost. Like that'd be super cool. Which I'll go into that again more at some point. I'm really like fleshing out this idea for squads mode of like this league concept. And the league concept is basically like how you'll play squads mode. Like you'll enter a league, which is like a certain type of play. And leagues will be something that people can make their own leagues, or I'll probably have a few official leagues. But that'll just like separate kind of different play styles out. So there might be like a ladder league, or like a super competitive league, and then there might be like a casual random play league, or a co-op league, or whatever. Or people can come up with their own leagues, like RPG Storytime League, something like that. But But I'm liking that idea, so I'll be introducing more about that at some point, hopefully in the nearish future. so, so much money and fame. Um, well, I mean, again, it comes down to prioritizing. Like, I love to add all of the stuff that I see to the game. It's just a matter of like getting all of it in there would take forever, and hopefully I'll have enough time to get all of it in there. It's just a matter of like trying to be reasonable in terms of like, yeah, I don't want to delay 2.0 until it's all in there because then 2.0 would never arrive. Um, so I'm trying to, yeah, at this point I'm trying to whittle it down to like what's the most important stuff for 1.8, 1.9, 2.0, and then get that in there. And then work on the more, fun stuff after that, like better graphics and, clan system and who knows whatever else. But yeah, a story mode would be cool. I love how invested people get in like game characters and whatever when, there's a good story. So that'd be neat to, maybe there could be like an official story mode campaign or something like that. That could have its own story, and other people could make up their own stories for their own campaigns or their own leagues or whatever. But yeah, like up till 2.0 is, I mean, I do 1.8 should be adding support for downloadable assets, which should mean that we can start to do more stuff like character variations and new characters and stuff without having to like bloat the APK size. So there will be some fun kind of game facing improvements before 2.0, but yeah, a lot of them are technical, like the league system mainly. Like I would say that is the biggest thing, is like essentially 2.0 will be when the league system or the squads, I should say squads/league, like it's all kind of the same thing, but when the squad system becomes the default way to play the game, like that is when 2.0 happens. So 1.8 right now is getting some tech bits in place, like downloadable stuff, and I'm hoping to get a very, very alpha version of the squad system going. And then 1.9 will be just kind of iterating on squad system stuff, making it fun, and implementing all the game modes that we have in like the classic area. And then 2.0 will be when that stuff is ready for prime time, and then it's like flip the switch over to being, squad system is the primary way to play. Classic will still be around, and like all the existing stuff, I have no plans to remove functionality. But yeah, the big plan for 2.0 is when squads is ready to go. Linux glibc stuff, no progress on that. That's another option. I mentioned I'm looking for like a thing to tackle right now, especially right now because it's, for me, like there's going to be Christmas travel and stuff coming up, going to visit my family, and the lady and I are going to fly to New York for a few days after that. So a little bit of, holiday stuff. So I'm trying to come up with a little like bite-sized chunk I can finish before then. So like in the next week, basically, which is not a lot of time. So that's why I figured maybe ASTC support, maybe I could look into the glibc stuff, or in all reality, like addressing these Android bugs might suck up the rest of my time. But yeah, we'll see. Glibc stuff definitely needs to happen at some point, like Linux stuff, because I'd love to. I'm really hoping for 2.0 to be able to like launch on Steam, on Mac, Windows, and Linux on Steam. That would be great to like natively support all three. I mean, realistically, Windows is really the only important one because that's where most Steam players are. And if you're on Mac, you can get the Mac App Store version. And if you're on Linux or if you have a Steam Deck, you can play the Windows version pretty easily. So realistically, the Windows version is the only one on Steam that I should be worrying about. But I don't know, the completionist in me wants to have them working everywhere and get like a nice native Linux version people could use, just on any Linux distro. That would be wonderful. But yeah, there's those few challenges like getting the game built with an old version of glibc and stuff like that. Take a break. No, I can't take a break. This goes back to, I was saying, my my wife is always teasing me about, working on the game not working on the game too much, but, usually gently teasing me about, like, stop working. But I'm like, no, I'm playing. So it's turned into this big joke where it's like, when she asks me what I'm doing, I'm playing, but when other people ask, I'm working. But it feels like playing to me because it's fun. No, I know there's like work-life balance and all that stuff. But I don't know. This comes down to like philosophical questions of like, if you love doing something, even if it is technically work, is it bad? Or like, yeah, I don't know. Fill attribute? What would a fill attribute do? We can certainly. I mean, even though like I don't want to make too many, I definitely don't like any changes we make to scene v1 like need to be backwards compatible. But some cases like that, like adding attributes, that's okay. You just have to be careful. Like if you add attributes and then use those in like a server, that means that anyone with older versions will crash. So there's certain things you need to be careful about with that kind of stuff. Not a games question. Do you like other franchises? Yeah, I feel like lately I haven't been playing any like new games, so I feel bad about that. I should get into some mobile games or well, honestly, the games I do play lately are like casual Switch games when we have people over or something like Mario Party or Mario Kart, stuff like that, Just standard kind of casual multiplayer stuff. I haven't been doing any like single player stuff lately though, so I should get into that. For a while, like when I was first getting into mobile, like porting my stuff to mobile, then I was working with my friends at Limbic on like Zombie Gunship games, which was mobile. Like for a while there, I was getting into a decent amount of mobile games, like playing some, uh, like I was playing Boom Beach for a while. I don't know if that's still around. It was by the Clash of Clans folks, Supercell. Um, Clash Royale, I loved that actually. That was fun. I thought that was a very well done free to play game. I think that's still going strong, right? Um, so yeah, I had a little like mobile game era there. Beyond that, I've always loved like RTSs. I used to play a ton of like StarCraft or a bit of StarCraft 2 or Warcraft 3 with friends. A big inspiration for Bomb Squad, you've probably heard me say this before, is Warcraft 3 actually. All the like mini games. I loved like all the crazy custom mini games people made in Warcraft 3. And a lot of big stuff came out of that, like Dota, or that whole kind of play style was started as Warcraft 3 custom games. So that was an inspiration for me. Is just like the idea of like making a game, but making it so flexible and customizable that people could like take it in crazy new directions. Because I never got any good at Warcraft 3. I didn't actually enjoy the regular game that much. I just loved all the mini games, like all the weird little RPGs that people made with it. Party Animals. I have not seen that. I'll have to check that out. It does make me wonder. Like that would be weird if Bomb Squad suddenly became like super popular or something like that. If there would be like Bomb Squad rip-off game, or I shouldn't say rip-offs. I don't want to. I mean, every game borrows from other games. Bomb Squad originally borrowed from Bomberman a bit. It's kind of gone a weird different direction, but like gameplay is recycled a lot or referenced a lot in other games. But that would be weird to see like a game that was clearly designed to be like a Bomb Squad clone or something. That would be, in a way, kind of an honor, unless it did super well and then Bomb Squad tanked. It's like what Fortnite did when it kind of like adopted PUBG's playstyle and then did way better than PUBG. But yeah, I wouldn't imagine there's games out there that are like direct Bomb Squad clones at this point or anything like that. I mean, there's not, most aspects of Bomb Squad's playstyle can be found in other games. I know I've heard some people call Bomb Squad like a Gang Beasts clone or something like that, if back in the day, various things. So there's definitely, certain games you can see similarities in other games. But yeah, lots of I do enjoy that about Bomb Squad. It's still like, despite having, we're up to, I don't know, probably closing in on like 100 million downloads on Android, but that's still mostly people that have probably played the game for like 10 seconds and then uninstalled it. It's still relatively unknown in the game world. Like, a handful of people know it, or some people do. I'm surprised sometimes here in the U.S. Like, I'll hear, people will have heard of it or like played it a lot that I wouldn't have expected. Largely because Android is the biggest user base for the game by far, and in the U.S. here it's I think more than half iPhone at this point. So it's like there's not a super huge Android player base. Will I invest in advertising? Probably not, to be honest. Purely for the fact, and we'll see where it goes, but purely for the fact that advertising is expensive. Like, the last I heard, to basically, if you're paying for ads, if you're paying for ads to get people to come to your game, the last I heard is like over $1 per user to acquire users. That's what they call it, acquiring users, which means that for that to make sense, like for paying for ads to get people to come to your game has to make more than like $1 per person. Or whatever that number is now. It could be way higher. I don't know. And Bomb Squad makes nowhere near that. So basically, I would be losing a ton of money if I were advertising, just because the people that I would be pulling into the game would be way less than the money I'm getting from those new people. So I'm very fortunate in that Bomb Squad gets a lot of like organic traffic for whatever reason. Maybe it's been popular enough that there's enough people that just download the game on their own that can support me. But yeah, at this point, the game would have to make way, 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 way more money for it to make sense for me to pay for advertising. So, like I said, if you see Bomb Squad ads, then I've done a good job with making money. But I don't anticipate that happening, and I kind of don't. I kind of feel like to make a game that is that profitable, I feel like you almost have to get into the not sleazier free-to-play stuff, but definitely you have to push the selling a little bit harder. I'm perfectly happy with a game that doesn't make a ton of money. I like that it's free, and so everyone can play it. And if I make a tiny bit of money from some people, enough to like keep working on the game, like I'm happy. So, but yeah, long story long. Oh, cool. Nice, I like it. It's very like referential of the how-to in the original game, but adopted for Overclock. That's awesome. That's one thing. Getting into like law or leagues and squads mode and kind of like the new play style that'll be coming out is like I'd love to. I don't know if encourage or require, like if you're making a custom league. Something like this could probably be wrapped into like a custom squads mode league at some point. But I'd love to almost like require people to do something like this, or like when you're registering your league, like providing metadata for like, hey, this will be shown to people for how this league works. Just some way for at least like the more advanced leagues, something where there's more stuff to learn. Just coming up with like a consistent way to kind of show people the ins and outs of the league or the play style or whatever. Okay, it is the how-to. Yeah, it does. It does very much look like the how-to window just modified. So, but yeah, that just gets me thinking of just having like a consistent way for people to learn that kind of stuff when they're doing like different mods or leagues or whatever. So, very cool. Do you think you made a decision to save your career? Oh man. I wouldn't say saved. Yeah, it's hard to know. Let's see. Like one thing leading to another, like my career, I was, for those of you, you probably all know, but 10 years ago, I was working at Pixar happily. I loved my job there. I loved working on movies and doing visual effects and fire and explosions and all that cool stuff. And, so many people seeing the movies. It was great. But then, I wound up like my friends who had played my, early Bomb Squad builds, they were trying to encourage me to like, hey, you should put that out on the App Store or something. Like that could do well. So that was definitely a career-altering decision. Is like to just release Bomb Squad in the first place on like the Mac App Store, however many years ago that was, 12 years ago, 11 years ago. Just because that started doing well enough that one thing led to another, and then putting the game out on like the Ouya console, which was, I've talked about that before, the goofy little Android micro console that came out in 2013-ish or 2012. I think it was 2012. Like that was another like career-altering thing, because then that led to a bunch of exposure for the game, even if the console wasn't a success. It's like still a lot of people saw the game through that. So, Google contacted me and Amazon contacted me and Oculus contacted me about various things for getting the game on their platforms. So, and then, around that time I was like, okay, I could definitely make this could be my career. So that's when I decided to just go full time on the game. So, yeah, so that was definitely like career-altering decisions, is to like do those things, just to release this goofy hobby as a game, and then also to put out that Ouya version. Kind of, I hadn't planned on doing that. I hadn't planned on doing like an Android version until like the game was ready, which who knows, it's still, that could be maybe it wouldn't have been out at this point. I'm sure it would have been, but so I wound up like kind of releasing on Google Play sort of accidentally, or not accidentally, but Google saw the game and asked if I wanted to be involved in like making an Android TV version, and then that led to basically just go ahead and like release the game all across Android, even though I technically wasn't quite, didn't feel like the game was ready for that yet. But yeah, it wound up doing it, and here we are. But that's kind of why like I didn't release an iOS version at the time. It was just like, oh, okay, I'll do the Android version, but it's not ready for iOS yet. But yeah, I wouldn't say any of those like saved my career, but I would say like some of those decisions definitely like influenced my career and where it went and whatnot. Real color of Spaz. He doesn't have a real color. It's whatever you want. Well, technically the real color was gray. He was made out of gray clay. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. What is your all favorite Spaz color? We could make something official, but though I wouldn't want to prioritize like red over blue or something, because then one team would feel like they have the real Spaz. What do we have here? That's pretty awesome. See, I'm curious, like stuff like that. Is that was that intentional, or was that super cool? But like, yeah, is that like a learned technique, or was that just like a fluke that happened? Okay, I will. Yeah, I'll try to get the PRs merged today. Sorry again for the big delay. As I mentioned, I just wanted to kind of set PRs to the side while I was fighting bugs. But now that the bugs are at least on their way down, they're in a controlled state. We can get back to getting those PRs done. Oh, well, this is these docs are up to date, or they should be up to date. They should be getting regenerated every night. Oh yeah, 1731. So yeah, that's up to date. These don't have. I don't think all the node types are in here because it's kind of a silly quirk of the game is that in Python land there's a single like node object type. Which should be like bacnv1.node. bacnv1. Everything is in one giant list here. Wait, wait, our node's not. No, BACMV1.node. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay, well. Yeah, right now there's a single like node type in Python, which this encompasses like all of the underlying node types in the C++ layer, which is kind of dumb. I'm hoping on seeing v2 that'll be split out, so you'll see actually all these different node types as different Python types, which would be a lot more useful. And you'll see like the actual attributes on them, like in Python, so you won't have to do this weird like digging around in C++ stuff. But yeah, right now there is a single node type, and it has basically a giant list of like all attributes used everywhere. So it's, like I said, not ideal, but it works for now. We've talked about this, the idea of unintentional features. I feel like that's the most fun part of like physics-based play, is like you put rules in place, but then people figure out like ways to harness the physics and do crazy stuff that like you never really intended. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's bad, but I think it's very interesting. Just like that, like that's certainly like a spin punching an impact bomb is certainly not something I designed. But like everything comes together. Like, I designed the bombs to not go off immediately because I think initially, they'd whip out a bomb and it would just blow up because it touched their head. So, there's some safeguards in there against that. So that's kind of why you can punch it without it blowing up immediately. But it wasn't like I didn't put that in there for the intentions of making it punchable. But yeah, exactly. Its existence in the game is unintentional. Make new textures for Android and PC just for models. I mean, Blender, I think, is like there's been some. I know there were scripts out there at some point for like Blender to export Bob files, right? I think. If you're making models, textures are just pretty standard formats. Currently, I mean, if you're kind of hacking your own stuff and adding textures, yeah, as I mentioned, there's currently different formats for mobile versus desktop. Desktop uses like DDS files, I believe, which are like DXT5 and DXT3 formatted textures under the hood. Android uses, forgot the FBX file, or what, not FBX, what are the, so many file extensions, I forget what's what. But Android uses a different file extension which contains ETC1 and ETC2 textures. And soon will contain ASTC. So ASTC, just to write that down if anyone is interested. This is what we will be using, ASTC. And this will be on the Android version and on the iOS version once it gets here. So that's another nice thing too, is it'll just be like a single, basically the game will support like two versions of textures. It'll be like ASTC for mobile and like DXT for desktop. There are like slightly better, there's like DXT7 or I forgot the technical name for it. Desktop textures, there's like slightly newer ones than what I'm using. I'm using like the ones that have been around for a long time. They're just kind of like, they work fine. At some point I might try to adopt the newer ones. For some strange reason, like ASTC is super cool, but it's only on mobile. Like I was looking into it to see if like NVIDIA cards or desktop stuff had adopted that, but they really haven't. So it's kind of a bummer. Like I kind of wish I could use it everywhere, but the game will still, at least for now, have to have like two different sets of them. BPTC, is that? Anyway, if you dive around into like texture compression, you'll find the various formats out there. Yeah, maybe it's BTC. I don't remember. DXT7? Yeah, I'm forgetting. Oh no, Bob plugin doesn't work. Well, if anyone wants to make a new Bob plugin, I know I've shared the source code for Bob files at some point. Um, but yeah, I'm happy to do that. I'm not trying to like keep it hidden or anything. It's a very, very simple format. It's just like dumping a bunch of floating point values into a file with a little bit of structure. It's basically like as simple as possible. Yeah, this is. I mean, this kind of you're talking about the with tryhards earlier. Is there? What do you guys think is a good way to improve this in the community? Like I was saying, I'm hoping squads mode will help because you will have less direct interaction with like pro players probably if you're just playing with friends or playing alone. It will hopefully place you based on skill level. So hopefully you're not just getting jumping into servers with crazy pro players that are just destroying you or whatever. That's the hope. But beyond that, like, is there any thoughts on? I guess you're saying competitive mode. I guess there's still like, if you do have like a casual mode though, then there's people like smurfing, going into there just to smoke the noobs. So it's a tricky problem. But like I said, my biggest hope is that squads mode will at least improve the situation and kind of just divide people more into like groups they want to be in. So if you want to play casually, like you can play casually, and you won't have like chat with the people you're playing against or whatever. So even if someone is toxic and full of themselves, they won't be able to like type that to you at least. No, I don't want to destroy. I don't want it to like destroy the tryhard community. Is that a derogatory term? Um, I want people to be able to be like as super pro and into and competitive with the game as possible. I don't want those people to ruin the experience for newer players or people that aren't that competitive. I kind of feel like there's room for both. Universal lobby, that could be interesting, or like a regional thing. Though this topic came up, I feel like it was like a year or two ago. There was some game that had like a global chat, and they wound up like ripping their global chat out just because it wound up being like kind of toxic, and they had to moderate it a lot, and so it makes me wonder if the better option, or if a good option would be almost just like trying to improve like Discord integration. Maybe so if people want to make Discord servers, like maybe having the game be able to kind of like route people into those or something. So if you do want to find like a community to play with, then you could do that. Because then systems like Discord have all the great moderation and stuff in mind and built in. Whereas if the game had like a regional or global chat, the game itself would have to deal with that kind of stuff, like toxic players and presences and stuff. So I'm wondering if it's better to like lean on things like Discord more. Oh yeah, we do. I know there's a few tutorials out there, but I definitely do want to make more. That will change a lot when, as I mentioned, I'm working on like leagues mode, squads and leagues. Those kind of one and the same concept. But when you're modding stuff for like a league, when you're making your own league and like adding your own games to it, like that'll be at that point. Then I definitely want to make some more tutorials for like beginners and stuff, because I think that's where I want to get to, is like where you're writing game mods, making a simple like little league of your own or something with your own game mods or your own modded versions of games, or your own just like versions of the standard games but with your own slight rule modifications or settings or something. Like that's where I want to get, is where people can like really do stuff like that and then invite their friends to play, because it'll all be like squads based and online and whatever. I want to get rid of or get away from having people to like have to install custom textures and custom models into their devices and anything like that, or even having to like install mods. I think most people who want to just like make a fun game experience, like they should just be able to make that, have it magically be on the cloud, and other people can magically join it. Or like other people can actually like play it, single player even, not necessarily like join a multiplayer server. Uh-oh, Roadmap Seagull, he hasn't shown up yet. What's this about? Merp. Oh, I don't know if Roadmap Seagull applies to that. But yeah, I am trying to think of this like casual versus competitive mode. And that kind of goes into like my concept of leagues. The idea of like a league will just be like a group of players with kind of a overall similar purpose. Like you can make a league that is super competitive with high scores and detailed stats, or there'd be a league where it's just like casual and maybe there's no stats. It just matches you up against either computers or people or something. So my hope is that like maybe for the average first-time player joining the game, playing Bomb Squad 2.0 for the first time, they would just get put into like casual league, just to like play the game in a low-stress environment and have fun with it. And then the people that really get into the mechanics and competitiveness, they can switch over to like competitive league or whatever it would be called. So yeah, I feel like it would be fun to like iterate on concepts like that. But yeah, that's where my vision right now is currently on just getting this like league squad system up and running, so that we can start to experiment with things like that. Like, oh, what if we divide it into these 2 leagues? Or what if we have 3 leagues? Or just a crap ton of leagues? I don't know. What works well? Or like these 3 leagues are, or these 2 or 3 leagues are like very prominent and most people would be in them, but like maybe there's more specific leagues that are harder to find or something. Who knows? Ranked and unranked online. I mean, the leagues wouldn't be about that, but I think leagues would facilitate that. I think leagues would be, basically if you want to do ranked, like, yeah, you could go join a league that is all about ranked stuff, or all about, competitive scoring. So that's my thought, is to try to like make this league concept like support those options. Like it's up to the league, like what happens. Like the league would basically be like this little chunk of code that people could write that would schedule matches. If you go into a league and say like, hey, I want to play a game, then the league has to decide like what that means. Like I pressed a play button. What does that mean? So the league could like match you against other players, or it could like put you in a server by yourself playing against a computer. So there, that's basically what the league would be doing. And then it would come down to like, do we want to make a league that is designed around, very competitive matchmaking and maybe strict requirements on like, you have to be somehow a pro player or something? Or do we want to make a league where it doesn't even keep any of those stats? It just puts you in a random game as quick as possible against a computer or a person if there's one available, So, so effectively, like, I think like the league system would be a way to, like I said, facilitate that. So having kind of ranked versus unranked play, or maybe one league would have both options. I don't know. Well, I just want to like let it evolve and get people's opinions as it's happening. Okay, cool. Yeah, this is something. Thank you for. Anytime you can point me at existing systems or games that do this sort of thing well, like that is helpful. Like I said, I don't play nearly enough games, and I suck at Smash. So I certainly wouldn't know about like pro gameplay in Smash because I have never done it. for a long time, like Smash Brothers, all my roommates in college years were they loved Smash, and I was just so terrible at Smash. So they'd they like goad me into like, hey, let's play some Smash, and I'd be like, okay. It was just like my punishment time. Like I go and I mean I enjoyed playing, but I would just get annihilated. So it was like I kind of enjoyed like seeing if I can hit somebody once or twice before I just got creamed. Um, but yeah, I felt like it was just like appeasing my roommates, letting them beat me up for 10 minutes. But yeah, any like games or systems out there that do this sort of stuff or that have solved some of these problems, like thank you for pointing me at any of them. Because I feel like as someone who doesn't know all of those games super well, it's like I feel like I'm probably making a lot of mistakes that have been solved in other places. For Smash Ultimate, that was removed. Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I mean, my general desire is like I'd love to keep casual and pro players kind of separate in a way or something. I mean, I would consider myself probably more of a casual player these days. I don't have any game I'm like super pro into. I mean, that could change. I'd love to get to the point where I could feel like I'm like being a pro competitive bomb squad player or something. That'd be neat. But at the same point, like that'd be weird too because it's like I need to be working on the game, not playing it. That happened sometimes like in the early days of bomb squad when I was like making the campaign is I actually kind of had started to have fun like trying to set high scores and stuff, so I'd just get sucked in and distracted by playing when I should be working. It's a good problem to have, I guess. I seem tired. Oh no. I'm okay. I feel like my voice is a little raspy. Maybe I'm like not coming off a cold, but yeah, I feel a little like maybe like I feel like I almost had a cold yesterday or something, or the last few days, but I didn't really get one. So hopefully I'm just like barely dodged a cold or something. This would not be me though. If I showed up at a big tournament, I mean that would be cool. Like I'd love to be able to do that, but I think if there was like a super competitive bomb squad tournament, like I would just get destroyed. Um, I think for a while I was decently good at co-op, or I was decently good at single player because I would play that a lot while I was iterating on the original campaign. But in terms of stuff that works in multiplayer, like competitive stuff, I don't think I'd be good at all. I just because I haven't like been exposed to that. So I'd be trying stuff that works against bots, but like people are better than bots usually. Except there's those AI bots people were working around. Are those still around? Do well online but suck at co-op. Oh, interesting. That was one thing I did discover with the game is that the bots or yeah, just the co-op or the single player campaign was really challenging for people. I mean, for one, I think the physics is just kind of a little tricky for people to wrap their heads around. It's a little whooshy and you know, especially at first. Like when I watch someone play the game for the first time, it's always a little cringy because it's like they just kind of drop bombs in front of them and blow themselves up, and it definitely takes a while to kind of get the feel of the game. Um, but I was looking at stats at some point, and I was seeing like a small percentage of people who actually downloaded and played the game were getting past level 1. So it was just like, ooh. That's why at some point I made like the easy mode campaign, which improved that situation a bit. But I still think it's like, even with easy mode and, it taking more hits to kill you and stuff, I feel like a lot of people never quite latch on to the physics of throwing bombs and actually, So yeah, it's definitely a challenge, to find something that's easy enough for people to be able to like get into the campaign in ways. But yeah, that for me the campaign's super easy. So yeah, it's there's a lot of skill range out there. It's which is cool to see. But yeah, for me, it's interesting to like I said, look at stats and see that the average person playing the game is just really bad, or doesn't do good at all. So it's like, what's the right level of easiness? Because it's like if I made the entire campaign super easy to where like the average like new player could get through it, like that's going to be crazy boring for anyone who's like a good gamer. So it's like, how do I adjust that? Well, this, like talking about like blocks or gameplay adjustments, like I'd love to play with all this stuff, and I do hope to at some point in like, an upcoming scene version. It'd be fun to kind of come out with like a revamped spaz physics or something that maybe addresses some complaints. And maybe that would just be only used for online play or certain play modes or whatever. And classic spaz would still be around for all the existing stuff. All right, what do we got here? Oh, that's interesting. Like the glitching that you're saying, or is that? So how does that work? Like, what is the specific combination? Like, what is the technique there for like launching those guys? Punch, grab, punch. See, stuff like that is like amazing to me. It's like, how did you do that? And so yeah, if we did like a revised physics, like maybe it would be like that could be an interesting project, is like revised spaz at some point, just trying to come up with something that doesn't have physics exploits, or maybe, or at least has ones that are like reasonable, or doesn't have ones that everybody uses because they're OP. Okay, interesting. Well, this goes into other questions too. Is there's a lot of people ask like, oh, why don't characters have different custom abilities? And my answer is always like, that could be fun, and maybe this goes back to leagues. Like maybe there could be a league where the characters do have custom abilities in that league or something. Like maybe that could be a fun style of gameplay. But I also, yeah, it also could be a downside too. It's like some people like the fact that it's not, players don't have, there's not one player that's OP because they're all basically the same physics. So some people like that consistency. But yeah, certain things like the punch you're showing me, where it's like that almost. I love when people like exploit the physics by doing cool things like a big wind up spin punch that it just looks like, it looks like it would do a lot of damage, and it does do a lot of damage. But something like this, it's like it doesn't really look like, I don't see the physics. It doesn't look like something that should send a character flying. To where like I feel like I'd be more apt to try to prevent stuff like that, where it's like you're exploiting the fact that a few button presses in a row will like somehow cause the physics to not glitch out, but you get like an extra punch boost or something. I want the game to like feel very responsive. Like if you see some punch that looks like a hard punch, that should do a lot of damage. If you see a punch that doesn't look like a hard punch, like that shouldn't. So like if someone's watching the game, they should be able to see like, ooh, that punch looked like it hurt, and like it should be it should have hurt. Well, I don't plan to add custom abilities by default. Like I said, it's more of a question, like if somebody wanted to make like in the same way that someone could make like a single player RPG with a whole storyline. Like I think someone may want to make like some little play mode where you can pick from some number of guys with custom abilities. So I want to make that possible, but I don't want to make it the default. That's, if that makes sense. And so yeah, I do want to I want to provide like a canvas for people who might want to experiment with stuff like that. But yeah, I don't have any plans to add custom across the board custom stats for characters or anything like that, or custom abilities. New version of Bomb Squad. Depends on which version you're talking about. I mean, right now we're in the middle of 1.7, so all the updates are mostly under the hood stuff recently. 1.8 will be it's going to be a bit of a fuzzy line, like when it goes from 1.7 to 1.8. Because I do plan on starting to get squads mode working in 1.7, and then I'll probably just cut it off at 1.8 once squads mode has support for downloadable textures and stuff like that, because that was like the official plan for 1.8 is to have downloadable assets. So, but it'll probably be more like a continuum. Squads mode will appear and slowly evolve into something better and better and better, and at some point 1.8 will happen. That's so weird. Oh man. Yeah, I would really be curious. Like, it'd be interesting to look into the code and see why that's happening. It's probably like the combination. The grab is probably flipping some switch on the spaz node where it's like setting them off balance, and then, or just putting them in the right place where a punch does like a very vertical. Yeah, that's probably it. Thinking about it more. So one thing, if you look in the spaz code, there's some stuff where whenever like a force is applied to a spaz, it takes like the up and down component of that force, and that is like multiplied a lot more than like the left right. And the reason for that is so that bombs tend to like send spazes like flying up in the air, because without that they would just like fly to the side usually, which doesn't look as fun. So I'm guessing this probably somehow like puts the characters in alignment to where like the punch is going straight up and down. So it probably like sends them flying for the same reason that bombs send people flying. Any seen text-based RPG progress? I mean, I've been working on some server-side stuff, so I guess that would apply. But that is still that will still be the first version of, like, essentially that'll be like a league, like when leagues appear, like the scenes in league, or not scenes, squads in leagues. That will be the first option for creating a league, is you can create a text-based RPG league. So, which I still think is a good kind of target for me to aim for, because it will be a simple thing, basically just getting all the pieces there for like creating gameplay like in the simplest way possible. And then having like, the squad stuff of like inviting friends, joining a game, getting, kicking friends out, like all the technical bits of wrangling a squad can be put in place with text-based RPG mode. And I was thinking it might not actually be fully text-based. Like, it might be something where like you can write an RPG and then have a list of like options for people, like buttons, like a yes or no, or like attack, magic, run away, And some of that stuff could actually be useful to keep around. Like if we come up with like a clean way to kind of prompt everyone in the game to like answer a question, like that could be something useful later. If you think about things like kick votes, if a league does want to implement kick votes, then it could use that same tech to just be like, hey, kick this player, yes or no, as opposed to like having to have everyone type something, which is awkward and lame. So that's why I was thinking like having a very simple text-based mode to start with could like let us flesh out the some useful little utilities we could use like even later on. Oh yeah, totally. If you want to make a game that is kind of inspired by Bomb Squad or whatever, definitely feel free. Uh, that'd be super awesome. Or even using the engine if you want. That's why I'm slowly trying to make it so you can use the Bomb Squad engine without like the internal parts. It is technically possible to build it that way now. Um, you'll just get like a crash if you run it because there's certain things it doesn't handle that stuff being missing, but you could make it handle that. Um, but even if it's probably easier to use Unity or some other engine too if you're just making a game from scratch that is not connected to Bomb Squad in a tight way. But yeah, feel free to use the character style or be inspired by Bomb Squad or whatever. The only thing I would ask, that you ping me about is if you're like want to use assets directly, stuff like that. Um, layout. What? Oh, we're talking. Okay. Yeah, does everyone use like the default key layout? The JKIO. I just tried to pick four buttons that basically were kind of the equivalent of the ABXY keys on a game controller. Nothing. Like, would anyone think like would other defaults make sense for like PC or for keyboard layout? I kind of did the OKIJ thing, ASDF thing. Like one option would be to like use the arrow keys as like action buttons, or just even use those for movement. But that seems like backwards. Like I don't want to like be moving with my right hand. It does make me wonder. On a side note, in terms of like other languages, it's getting to the point where like translation is so fast and easy. Like if you're using Gmail or something, like I'm starting to have it like auto translate my messages because I get a lot of bug reports in other languages. Like it'd be cool to have that option for like chats or systems like this, just to like auto translate what people are saying and then auto translate your response back to them. Though I don't know how that like badly the translations would go there, but it would be interesting. Though I guess in this case it would have to auto translate my voice too. I'm curious if Google Translator is getting better these days, like in these days of ChatGPT and LLMs and all that stuff. Like if it's, I'm curious if that has an effect on like translation tools, like if they're a lot better now. I know I've always encouraged people to like don't use Google Translate when you're submitting translations for the game. Some people I think still do anyway, but I'm curious like if that would be something that would be okay in the future or something like that. I'm sure it would probably need context. You probably could use ChatGPT for it, just like if you had to translate something, if you like somehow explained the context of what the button is used for. Which on that note, that gets me thinking about just like uses for AI or ChatGPT type stuff. I know that's all the rage now. Like everything is like AI can solve all the world's problems. It sounds. I feel like it's almost like a little bubble or something where everyone thinks AI is gonna like replace everyone's jobs, and then like in 2 years there's gonna be some like bubble bursting where like tons of AI startups go bankrupt or whatever. We'll see what happens. Um, but it kind of feels that way right now, where it's a little bit like overhyped, almost like NFTs were there for a hot minute, stuff like that. It's still really cool tech, and it does make me wonder like, would there be a use for that in the game in terms of like one thing I thought of is like looking at people's like account tags to determine like, is this a bad word or is this trying to like look like a bad word using emoji or creatively using other characters. Ooh, fun tricks. See, that I like. That is fun. See, that is good use of like the physics, and see something like that you can like see what happened. Like, oh, okay, he hit them in the head with a bomb. Like that's hilarious. So like I fully encourage little exploits and things like that, as long as they're not like overpowered. But yeah, I'm definitely more of a fan of that type stuff than I am of, you know, like weird things where a button combo randomly sends your dude, you know, sends some dude flying in the air straight up. Basically, we're kind of the equivalent of the ABXY keys on a game controller. Yeah, it does. Like sometimes you get these dudes look like it's like ballet. Basically, we're kind of the equivalent of the ABXY. I was like, who's that talking? That's a weird voice. Oh, that's me. Yeah, that is a good point. Yeah, that is. I think that is an ideal to strive for. The, you know, basically the idea that if you provide an empty canvas for people, even if it's the same canvas, providing something where people can kind of specialize how they use that canvas instead of giving everyone a different canvas. You know, that's kind of, so if someone can get really good at you know, just grappling or punching, or someone else can choose to get really good at throwing bombs or something. Uh, like that's kind of an ideal, because then, you know, it gives you people reason to like practice and stuff, as opposed to just getting better characters because they've played a lot or something. So yeah, I kind of like that, and it goes into the idea of like I do want to keep abilities equal by default, you know. So that makes me feel good. But it's still like it would be. I still do think it would be fun to just have like a particular mini game or a particular little play mode you could do that's just completely embraces the idea of like upgrading your character or something like that. You know, not have that be the default, but just I think it could be fun as a just a, you know, something different, RPG ish. You know, I mean that's kind of like the fun of RPGs is just like you're grinding and making numbers go up. You know, and you feel a little bit better. It's like that weird dopamine feedback system. Like, ah, oh, I gained a level, got to keep going. Oh yeah, yeah. I'm sure that that is very very tough. It does seem like you would need some high level tools for that too, or something. Like if you're, and I'm sure, you know, anyone like the League of Legends folks or anyone like balancing a game with all those crazy diverse abilities, Overwatch or, you know, whatever else, like they got to be looking at like tons of stats in terms of like, you know, win percentages for particular characters in particular situations, and because yeah, that's, I can't imagine trying to balance that. So maybe that's another. Maybe I should think about that with leagues. Is, I mean, yeah, I should just keep that in mind with the whole league system. If like if adding the ability for people to script leagues, like there should be an ability to like gather stats somehow in a useful way. So if you are trying to add some sort of, you know, balanced abilities, that you could kind of see how that's working if hundreds or thousands of people are playing, as opposed to just like looking at one random game and trying to get it by feel. That would be tricky. So soccer game. So you're mentioning like better ability to like aim. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be interesting to play with. Like, I mean, like there's some like sports games where it's a lot less physicsy. Like the character gets the ball and then he's like the ball is attached to him as he's running around the field, and then you press the button and the ball shoots in the exact direction. Um, and in general, I mean, Bomb Squad is more loosey goosey, whooshy, physicsy. So it's like the opposite end of the spectrum. But I don't know. It could be interesting to try something that's a step or two more in that first direction. I mean, hopefully it would be possible to script something like that up, but we'd have to see. Wait, is this the same
Basically,
thing?
we're kind of the equivalent of the ABXY.
That's the same thing. What is this? This these poor like flying dynamics. Newbies just like that's pretty good though. Like whenever I'm playing with groups of friends, like people who haven't played the game, the flying dynamics always just destroys them. They're like, how does this even work? Like just press the button and hold a direction. You can do it. This is the great mystery. See, there's the story. It's like somehow these characters laugh with no mouths. It's there must be something dark behind it. It's telepathy. They're like laughing directly into your brain. But yeah, separating the punches. I mean, maybe for future physics updates, maybe it can be more predictable or something if there's something that can be improved. I don't like. I would be against adding more buttons as a requirement. Just because we are already, we have punch, jump, pick up, bomb. Um, I wouldn't want to add like L and R as like punch buttons. I don't think because then people playing with simpler controllers or touchscreens like wouldn't would be at a more of a disadvantage. Um, so my preference is right now the punch you use is based off like which direction you're spinning, but like maybe that could be made more predictable or something like that. Blue lock. I'll have to check that out. What is blue lock? Old Mel did have a mouth, it's true, but his mouth never moved. I almost feel like just from a cartoony standpoint, like I don't know, I just kind of like the look with no mouth because it's like, yeah, I'm not animating the mouth, so I'm just not gonna put it there. So it's more just like it's implying that like that part is left up to your imagination. You can maybe they have mouths, but it's like old Final Fantasy games, before the 3D ones where it's the characters like they were just like huge anime looking eyes. You could never see their mouths or anything, and it's always like they had text bubbles above them, but like you never heard them talking or anything. It's more just like you imagine that part. So So when you say more type materials, you mean like more like real world things like pencils and stuff, or do you mean like different physics properties like icy stuff or springy stuff? Potato. Oh no, your textures are still baking. Don't overbake them; they might get burnt. Oh, I'm sure your texture bake will be done soon. said, I haven't had any like baking or rendering or anything like that recently. I always, yeah, that's always fun. Just waiting around for that. Or like running it on a laptop, and like the poor thing, I always feel a little guilty like doing that on like a laptop because the fans are always like blaring full speed. And it's just like, come on, you weren't designed for this, but you can do it. I love how people learn my dirty trick for the Easter Bunny is just Kronk higher pitched. Because then, yeah, you play with them in slow mode. It's like, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, it would be fun to expand that. And I'm totally open to that. Like, yeah, I mean, basically, my guideline for the map was just be like make it out of real world stuff so that it it looks like something in the real world, or it looks like a kid playing on a playset he made out of stuff sitting around, clay and wood blocks and whatever. So I probably need to avoid Legos for copyright reasons. I'm guessing, and also for that would be really a lot of work to if there were real Legos. I mean, trying to like digitize all the little bumps, but yeah, like cardboard and stuff like that. That'd be super cool. The can you tell the football map, the football stadium map, is a big piece of cardboard? It doesn't look like it too much because it is painted green. Wait, do I have? Oh, I don't have that handy. Okay, well, next time you see the football stadium map, take a look. It's cardboard if you can't tell. Let's see. Maybe I'll just add one here. So yeah, that's it's an old texture, but yeah, this was just a giant piece of cardboard with blocks on it. Just describe that. Oh my. Yeah, I would. That'd be something. I mean, I haven't touched that code in a while, but like the character code for like if your arm gets pulled or something, like it kind of the pieces stretch apart. Like it'd be nice to get that behaving better to where like you could actually see the arm stretching out cleanly instead of like the pieces coming apart. Holy moly. Well, all right. Well, it looks like we are actually past the 2 hour mark. So I will probably need to wrap up for the day since, man, I always feel like, these little Coffee with Eric days, I always feel like, oh, I have nothing to talk about this week. But, then in like 2 hours just like flies by. I'm trying to see if I missed any last comments here. All right, well, if you said something I didn't respond to that was important, please... Oh, thanks for noticing. So you're trying to send photos? I don't know what to do about that. But yeah, if anyone has any last comments, questions, or whatever, I can answer real quick. Otherwise, I will get back to... Well, I'll definitely be pulling in those PRs today. I promise to do that. That is, I've been making people wait for way too long. So I'll be back to the grind, yes. So I'll get those PRs pulled in and a bit more work with addressing Android bugs. But then beyond that, yeah, look for maybe... I'm not sure if I should do the ASTC textures this week because I kind of like... I don't want to break a bunch of stuff right before I go, on break for a week or two. Maybe I can like release that as a test build though or something like that. or I can work on the glibc stuff for Linux. I don't know. We'll figure something out. I'll be working on Bomb Squad in some form. So, but yeah, PRs will definitely be. I'll definitely be doing that. Well, it's been fun chatting with you all. Thanks for showing up. And oh yeah, well, I guess happy holidays, Merry Christmas, all that to any of you who celebrate that. I will probably. I mean, I've been doing these every 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now, I'm guessing. I think I'll still be out of town, so I might not be able to have one that day. It'll be sometime in the next few weeks. So if it's not for a few weeks, then I will see you folks in 2024. Weird. There's a chance I could do one next week, but we'll see. So anyway, yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to all you folks, and I will... Oh, also, what's this also? All right. Well, anyway, yeah, just message me offline if there's anything I missed here. So, all right, I'll check featured suggestions, and... All right, well, talk to all you folks later. So, peace out.